I'm Daniel, the past life regressionist, and it's time to begin.
Lift off and the clock has started.
3, 2, 1. This is Timeless Spirituality. Enjoy Eternity Time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Time with Spirituality. It is time for the final episode of 2024. You see what I did there? Yeah. Anyways, this was a fun one. I had my friend NJ on to talk about the astrological predictions for 2025. And it is, I believe that it's very informative. And I just want to correct the record on a couple of things that you're going to hear over the course of the next episode, just to make sure you guys have all of the correct factual information, because I made a few little mistakes. Secession movements were brought up during the episode, and I just want to emphasize that it's not necessarily about them all taking place this year as much as the foundation being set and seeing things play out in real time that may really come to fruition in the coming years. Next thing is, I often refer to the financial issues that we had in the United States and worldwide. And the one big thing that I left out of what led to the Great Recession of 2008 was the Glass-Steagall Act, which is what basically separated financial institutions for a very long time. But once that was eliminated, there was a merging that took place and the banks just got bigger. So that took place in 1996, and that was a huge contributing factor. Another thing that I brought up was the legality of trading stocks. And I said, it's with this thing in particular that you'll hear about. I said it's legal for everyone. I was referring directly to members of Congress, but I don't think I said that specifically. Congress of the United States. Another thing is, I talked about I'm just going to be vague here. The Democrats in California in the 1980s, what I meant to say was the 1990s. It was the early 90s. And in the second half of the episode, I referred to a Mercury retrograde when I meant to say Mars retrograde. So just so we're clear on that. And a lot of the predictions that are made, I just want you guys to know they're not necessarily endorsements of these things. It's just, this is what is being seen on the horizon. So it doesn't necessarily mean in support of. Very last thing. I came on a little strong at certain points during this episode, really saying it's important to know your history. It's important to know your history. It's important to know your history. And I really repeated it. And I didn't want it to come across as me waving my finger at any one of you who are listening right now. I think it was just my own frustration with what I see transpiring around the world, because I do believe that history repeats itself. And I do believe that if we do not learn from the past, we are destined to make the same mistakes. So that's really where that came from. It was my own, it was me, guys. It wasn't you, it was me. So I just want you guys to be aware of that when you're listening. And I'm going to get back to the really spiritual episodes. That's coming up. This is just a blip on the radar. It's not going to be like this forever. In season 5, I'm going in a much more spiritual direction. So it's coming. But I do think that this was an important episode to have, because I think it's important to know what could potentially be coming so you can prepare for it and thrive. One other announcement I want to give you guys. The next new episode is probably going to be in 3 weeks, because I have a big project that I'm working on. And it should be released, hopefully, fingers crossed. As of now, it looks like it's going to be within the next week. So just check out the announcements on Instagram for that one. And if it's live by the time of the next episode, I will definitely be announcing it. So 3 weeks probably for a new episode. I might be throwing something out in the meantime. Maybe in a week or two, there will be something else. But if you don't see a new episode for 3 weeks, that's why. It's something that I'm going to be giving you guys a lot more content, more spiritually focused. So just bear with me, please, as I put the finishing touches on this project I've been working on for a while, and I can't wait to announce it. And with all of that said, if you would like to book a regression with me to discover who, when, and where you have been throughout time, you can reach me on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist or my website, thepastliferegressionist.com. And now, for the last time of 2024, it's time to begin. NJ, welcome back to the show for the second year in a row for predictions, astrological predictions, that is. How are you doing today?
I'm finally somewhat recovering from this Mercury retrograde hangover. How are we doing, Daniel? And thank you for having me as well.
Oh, you're very welcome. And so for the reference for everyone, we are recording this on December 20th right now. So that's the post retrograde hangover that she's referring to, the one that just wrapped up, I believe it was 5 days ago on December 15th.
Yes.
Before we jump into some of the big predictions that you got correct last year, I want to ask you, well, other than your receipts at this point, what makes you qualified to deliver these predictions?
Well, I guess I could start with my background of study, or my educational background. That was a weird way of saying that. But I studied globalization studies, which is kind of a combination of international relations, geopolitics, geography, GIS. I had a lot of that background as well. I have a minor in history as well as actually it's a double minor in history and political science. So this is something I'm pretty well versed in. I understand the systems and the whole processes behind it. It's not just a shot in the dark. So other than that, it doesn't make me the most qualified, but it helps.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you take your real world experience in what you've been educated in and you apply that to your astrological predictions.
Yes.
So which ones did you get correct last year? I just want to put the ball in your court because I was so excited. Well, not excited when they happened, but when some of them came true, I reached out to you right away. I was like, you got this. You got it right.
Yes.
You got it right. So there were a couple big ones. You want to take the floor with that one?
Yeah, you even sent me the screenshots. You're like, of the transcript. You're like, oh my gosh, you said it. You said it like almost verbatim. I'm like, The first one was the attempted assassination of what is now President-elect Donald Trump. And so that one came to pass in July. And then the other one was that Joe Biden would either resign from his campaign or from office before the election. And that also came to pass. So, and then also that Trump would win the 2024 election. And that also, unfortunately, came to pass.
So we're not biased here in our predictions, as you could tell.
Actually, I say it, but I try to stay pretty objective. But that being said, y'all catch my drift on that one.
What I mean with that is that you didn't let your personal bias color your predictions, because what I see happen a lot of the time when it comes to astrological predictions, and maybe this is just the way that I see it, not actually how it is, but I feel that a lot of astrologers let their own bias get in the way, and that kind of colors their prediction. So if they don't want something to happen, they're going to make a prediction going the other way. Again, this is speculation on my part, but that's just what I see to be the case. So I think it's cool that you didn't let that interfere, that you even said, hey, this is what I see happening. Doesn't matter how you feel about it, even though you kind of acknowledge right now you're not crazy about it, but you didn't let your own bias get in the way, which I think is really cool.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I should also add that when I looked ahead to the election, there was one transit on election day that I knew was going to really throw astrologers for a spin, that being that Venus-Jupiter opposition. And because then that's when kind of our wishful thinking can get the best of us. The things we want to see, we start really professing it as fact. And so I noticed that was going to be like, that was kind of something I thought about. I was like, I have to avoid that at all costs. So because I just like, and we saw that all around us. I don't really think it's necessarily to a lack of credibility with some of them as much as it was like that transit was step. And then the politically or the charged moment of the politics, the political climate that we're in right now. So I just thought that was worth throwing out there.
Hey, just so everyone can understand your train of thought.
Yep.
You ready for the next question?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone, if you really want to get to know her a little bit more, go check out the predictions from 2024 because we got a lot of ground to cover. So we're just jumping right in. NJ, if you could sum up 2025 in just a few sentences astrologically, how would you put it?
I would say it's a cyclonic firestorm. And so 2025 is that year we've been kind of anticipating, and it's going to be not just the pretext, but also where things really start coming into fruition. So where that firepower might turn literal, because we saw a lot of fire shifts, and we're going to see more of that this year as well. And it's worth noting from 2018 to 2023, we had like no fire transits, no retrogrades, planets in fire. But the exception, I think, of a Mars retrograde in Aries, we had like very, very little fire interplay for a while. So it's just been a lot of earth and air. As we know, that means erosion in natural terms. So now we're seeing a big shift in that.
All right. So now that you've summed it up, let's go into a couple of your predictions. What's your first prediction for 2025?
So prediction number 1, as many are anticipating and talking about, American Revolution 2.0. And this will go back to what we'll talk about here in a minute with the outer planet ingresses into new signs entirely, which many of these were present during the American Revolution. So we'll elaborate on that. But the next prediction will be conflict in the Asiatic Pacific. And I'm really eyeing Korea, both Koreas for that matter. And considering what we saw recently with the impeachment of their president for calling martial law before it got reversed, right before Mars stationed retrograde in Leo. And we'll get more to that in a minute as well. The third prediction will be a spike in secession movements and independence movements. We'll see this at a local and a state level and even a country level. We'll get more to that in a minute. Does more or less America will apply to this, but this will be a global trend.
Oh, I can't wait for that one.
Oh,
that conversation at least.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Because this is the transits for that are fascinating. And then the final, there's a lot more than that, like probably the conclusion of a Cold War, which usually comes through a hot means, but don't worry, do not panic. It's not going to be a World War III necessarily. But I do think there's going to be a lot of botched invasions. So there is, and then also a lot of blackouts, power and service blackouts as well. So there's going to be a lot going on in 2025, and we'll elaborate on that in a moment. And by blackouts, I mean major ones, not just power outages, like massive scale, unprecedented.
Let's talk about the secession and independence movements first. What are the astrological transits that are indicating to you that this is what's on the horizon for 2025?
All right, Daniel. So we have a combined series of transits. Of course, we've heard Pluto and Aquarius. That is the era of people's revolutions as well as unification. And a lot of times that goes in hands with either secession or independence movements. The second one is this Neptune North Node conjunction happening at 27. No, I'll have to double check on that. But we have a Neptune North Node conjunction and a Saturn-Neptune conjunction happening at 0 degrees Aries. And so Aries is the sign of independence, autonomy, and also the last time we saw a Neptune North Node conjunction in the final degrees of Pisces. And to clarify, it's either 26, 28. I just have to double check. It was the first secession, I believe. It was in December 1860. In addition to that, we also had... I'll get more into the Mars retrograde in Leo in a moment because Leo is the sign of sovereignty. So there is a link to that because we have this Mars retrograde in Leo that's happening as we speak. And Mars retrogrades are very important to forecasting mundane horoscopes. So there is a couple others, but those would be the main ones that really made me think.
What does mundane horoscope mean?
It represents a world horoscope. It's just from the day-to-day to big world events to just the general hustle and bustle of the collective of society. It mainly focuses on society, culture, politics in that domain.
All right. I'm going to make a prediction right here. And why I think it's also important for NJ and I to be having this conversation with regards to the transits and showing you how it plays out in historical context, because history does repeat itself. And once you learn astrology, you see, okay, maybe there are astrological correlations here.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'll be the first to admit, other than why, my two favorite words are "you're right." So for years, I've been saying that California is going to split away from the United States. I live in California. I am a proud American. I don't necessarily want to see California leave. I don't know if it's going to happen in 2025, but I think that California, in the somewhat near future, will be leaving the United States. If you're looking at this just purely economically, it has, the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of industry here, sustainable, but it may not just be California, because what you started to see happen during COVID was that there were states in different geographic clumps that were kind of grouping together and saying, okay, this is the way that we're going to do things. So it's almost as if the foundation was set then. and there was a collaboration that was taking place. But secession is no stranger to the United States. There have been secessions floated, I mean, even since the Civil War. It's not only secession from the Union, it's states or geographic locations inside, geographic regions inside of states that have wanted to split away. For example, you have parts of Northern California and Southern Oregon that want to split away and form their own state. Now, once all this starts to happen and the ball unravels itself, or the yarn, I don't know what the expression is there, how can you hold things together? Because when we had the Civil War back in the 1860s, it was North versus South. But if you look at a map right now, and this is not something I'm rooting on, but I think the political divide isn't North versus South. It's more isolated. But then you also run into an issue in a state like California, which has voted overwhelmingly Democrat since, I believe, the 1980s. It is known as what's, a blue state now. By the way, the whole blue state, red state thing, that started in the year 2000. They were not known as the blue states and red states before that. It was just because, was it Tim Russert? Was that what his name was?
I actually don't know that specific detail, but that makes a lot of sense. I was like, when did the red-blue state divide real? And I was like, that had to have been while I was alive. And that makes sense.
I believe it was in 2000, because what they used to do for the elections was give the different political parties different colors during every election cycle. So sometimes the Democrats were red and the Republicans were blue. And I think there were other colors mixed in there. But in the year 2000, just so happens that the Democrats were blue and the Republicans were red. So this newscaster, I believe it was Tim Russert, he referred to them as, you got the blue states and the red states. So it's interesting that that has evolved into something more derogatory. And seeing how these things happen over time. Keep that in mind, everyone, because when you hear these predictions taking place, you have to understand the source and the root, which again, not in 2000, but this goes back much further. So I bring that up because even in a state like California, which is voted overwhelmingly Democrat and has a supermajority of Democrats in the state houses, which means that the Democrats control the legislative bodies at the state level, you still have at least 40% of the state, roughly, that is more conservative. These secession movements, then you run into a bit of a rough patch because, again, it's not just North versus South. It also becomes neighbor versus neighbor. But due to numbers, that's why I think California may split away. And I think other states will follow suit because, when you also have someone who's running the state right now, who is power hungry. I'm not going to say any names because I don't know. I don't know what's in someone's heart. All I can say is my assessment based on the outside. You may have someone that's brash enough to say, let's fucking leave. And then everyone go, rah, 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 rah. Anyways, what do you have to piggyback there?
That's kind of actually why I asked you the other day. I'm like, wait, is where you're from North or South California? Because I saw just some discourse on threads about how North and South California want to succeed from each other because the rivalry is so strong. And you were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I just thought that was interesting. So it just shows that everything is happening on a hyper local level. So it's not just California. Like you said, we might even notice this with Texas because Texas is massive. And just other states that either have an outsized role in whatever it is from a national standpoint. And this is going to deal more in economical terms, like you were saying. That's why California probably and Texas are probably the only two that would be able to do that, which I don't know if it's going to be that straightforward. But I think on the West Coast, it's in there, like you were saying, are you the one that just said something about Oregon and how there's individual cities that are trying to secede from the whole state?
Yeah, there's parts of Northern California and Southern Oregon that want to secede together and form their own state, not their own country, but their own state.
And then you also see unification as well. Because kind of what I was saying about conflict in the Asiatic Pacific is because after what we saw with that botched and call for martial law from the South Korean president, it kind of pissed North Korea off because he was kind of fear mongering that North Korea was going to do something, and that's why he enacted it. And not only is he on impeachment trial right now, it kind of reflects what I was suspecting, that being North Korea was going to pull a rogue move on South Korea, whether it's a botched invasion or it's just something of the sort. It's going to be a cyber attack, because that's also a big thing I'm noticing as we're getting into the North Node and the latter degrees of Pisces towards the constellation Pegasus, those later degrees from like 23, 29 degrees. And that's usually associated with information leaks or even just like a botched attacks of any sort. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to unfold in Korea and like whether we might just have one Korea after that. I have to look more into that specific prediction, but that would be interesting speculation.
Okay, you got to tell me a little bit more about that one. Now, what will lead to one Korea?
So this is just speculation. I will have to double check the astrology for that specifically. But just remember that both of the Koreas were always one Korea before the Korean War in 1950. So when you take that into consideration, and that the fact that North Korea's only allies are Russia and China, hell, not even China. So Russia has already got its war in Ukraine. So it is not going to give military backing to North Korea, considering North Korea is already giving military backing to Russia as we speak. So North Korea doesn't stand a chance from an ally standpoint. And whereas the United States has promised that in the event that China invades Taiwan, or I think it's going to be more Korea than Taiwan, let me be clear, or that North Korea invades South Korea, excuse me, that they would absolutely intervene. And they have more of an interest to intervene in the Asiatic Pacific than they do to intervene in Ukraine. And whether it's the microchip industry for Taiwan, who I can't remember the exact percentage. It's a sizable majority of the population, like globally, or like the microchip production globally is concentrated in Taiwan. So if you're you're seeking to grow your technology sector, you need those microchips. It helps that Taiwan likes the United States, but not China. And same with South Korea. There's a lot of, I guess what you would say, national interest for the United States that's worth defending in its eyes, to where it would assert naval power. And that's a whole other conversation about how the U.S. is the only naval force in the world that carries that ability to actually project power. Even China lacks that. They've never, ever, like their Navy, I think, is new. The United States has a lot of experience.
I'm going to give you a shot out of a cannon right now.
What's that?
Shot out of a cannon. I got that expression from Step Brothers.
Oh. Oh my God. I forgot all about that movie.
How does Pluto entering into Aquarius factor into everything you just said?
A major difference with the Pluto and Aquarius from what we've seen in history is that rather than a global war like we saw during World War II, which was the Pluto and Leo era, which was exactly opposite of the Pluto and Aquarius era, we're going to see this take place more through the, I guess you would say, internal revolutions worldwide. So every country's people are kind of going to start rising up and trying to reform their own governments, the way things are structured, their systems, everything in between. And that's what defines Pluto and Aquarius, is the era of people's revolutions, to it being the power to the people, because Pluto represents power or governments. Anytime Pluto ingresses a new sign, it's going to specifically deal with governments, the power structures, everything in between. So Pluto spends 20 years here versus it spends a erratic amount of time depending on it. I think the past 12 years have been Pluto, 13, 14 years have been Pluto and Capricorn. So, and then I think Pluto and Virgo was a lot shorter. I can't remember the exact span, but like I think it was like 9 or 10 years. So Pluto spends a random amount of time in each sign. So the fact that it's spending this long in Aquarius, and Pluto and Leo, I think was like actually longer than that. I think it was like 24, 25 years, something like that. It was a very long time. I have to double check the dates on that one. I'm not able to recall that, but that's going to be the big difference versus, say, what happened during World War II or the Korean Wars, that we're not in the Pluto and Leo, Pluto and Virgo era. Pluto and Leo was the era of the strongman, the dictator, hence what we saw in World War II. Pluto and Aquarius is the exact opposite. So we're going to see decentralized power. And so when we kind of take how that's going to affect on the global stage, we could definitely see something of the similar sorts in Korea, because every country right now is dealing with like fundamental corruption, including Korea, both Koreas. So there is going to be a larger reform that does come from this. It's not going to be as simple as, oh, one country invades another, it takes over, it wins. Like that's very unlikely going to be what characterizes this era.
Well, how would it look in North Korea? Because you said it's about, I don't think you said this verbatim, but about like the people recognizing and taking power back, right?
I'm curious about that too. Well, the thing is, North Korea has also slipped up a lot. Like there's been a lot of North Koreans who have escaped North Korea and have been able to speak out on what's happened. I think a lot of North Koreans know that's not normal.
You're talking about the ones who have escaped and spoken out about what's going on there, right? Because
But
you
the
still have millions of people there who have no idea what's going on inside of North Korea who live there.
more or less, like there's speculation that they know a lot more than what they're leading the government to believe, and they're kind of playing stupid because a lot of them live like have like grandparents who lived through the Korean War, so they were able to live to tell these stories, in private, anyways. So I don't know. I can't speak on that. I don't know anything about how North Korea works on the inside because none of us really do. Like we have very limited information on that.
Mm-hmm.
But if North Korea were to get bold in any way and go rogue, and it were to lose in any kind of conflict, it's going to lose its power. It's going to lose its government. And it's probably going to either get unified or they're going to have a completely different government installed. Because the Soviets are the ones who installed the communist regime in North Korea to begin with.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, do you think it'll be in 2025 or do you think it's going to have its roots in 2025 and play out later on?
Roots, like particularly in hindsight, when we're like, what really marked that moment? It's those things we take for granted in the moment, right? Like sometimes these conflicts are not as straight. Like think of you and I were talking about the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. At the time, people probably weren't thinking this sparked a war. In hindsight, when you think about it, everything boiled down to that event. And that's kind of what we're going to see in 2025. It's not going to be something that it clicks in the moment. That's going to be like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, and some people are kind of already doing that speculation with everything with the CEO, healthcare, and the American Revolution 2.0. People are like, a lot of people are like, dude, no, like that event isn't major enough. And it's like, it might be.
It is.
It might be. I mean, because you have to think the corporate world is the royalty of today. When you think about what Pluto creates is the death to monarchy, death to celeb culture. A lot of these mega billionaires fall under. Well, I don't know if he's a billionaire. Healthcare
he's probably
has
a millionaire.
Yeah, but I think healthcare has
running one of the biggest companies in the country.
And I'm not saying I agree or condone what happened, but when we're looking at how these issues are being discussed, it definitely makes you speculate. You're like, dude, why is everyone like, like they're kind of playing devil's advocate at least, or at most they're just outright supporting it and celebrating it.
What NJ is referring to right now, as we're recording this on December 20th, is the killing of the CEO of United Healthcare that took place, I believe, at the beginning of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And while it may just kind of appear that this is the start of something, and if you look historically, you don't even have to go that far back in United States history. One, you go back as 13 years, and you have the Occupy Wall Street movement, which this, you could say, was just the natural evolution of that movement that may have been suppressed, but never died. And if you go back a few years before that, you had the economic crash of 2008, which is where Occupy Wall Street really had its origins. Of course, it goes back further than that, but that really was the direct result of the crash of 2008. So then if you look at the crash of 2008, you say, where does this have its origins? Well, I mean, we could go over almost right now. Look, you got the dot-com bust that happened, or the bubble that burst back in, I believe it was 2000 or early 2001. You had the interest rates that were just getting gutted throughout the mid to, were those the aughts, right? Because the aughts were the 2000 to 2010, right?
What, the aughts?
Yeah, like, the 90s, 80s, 70s.
What do you mean? Like, how, like, I'm
what
not
are the,
sure
are the
you're
aughts
referring
2000 to 2010?
What,
like
what
right
do you mean
now,
by aught? I don't even know what that is.
Like right now is the 2020s.
Mm-hmm.
So you refer to this, and then next will be the 2030s,
Okay.
or the 30s, as they'll.
Oh, I didn't know that was what it was called.
Become to known. I'm pretty sure it's the aughts were the beginning of the century or the millennium. That first 10 years, where I think at a certain point, 2010 or 2011 to 2020 will probably be known as the teens, or the 20 teens. I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe there's a term for it. But I'm bringing this up to hammer it home to everyone. Everything has its roots somewhere. So NJ and I, in the recording last year, we really talked about how it's important to understand the context and nuance of all of these things, instead of just looking at an astrologer on TikTok or Instagram saying, oh, this is going to happen. Well, why? Sure, the planets may be telling you, but there is real world examples behind it. And last year, I made a prediction also in the recording where I said, I believe that World War III began in February of 2022. Because the conversation that NJ and I had, the one that she just referenced a bit ago, I think you did, about the shooting of
Archduke Ferdinand.
Archduke Ferdinand, right?
That was World War I, but World War II was the invasion of.
Did I just say World War II?
No, I just wanted to clarify that because I think I got that conflated. So I just wanted to throw that out there before listeners were like, wait.
So that was one of the events known as the shot heard around the world, whereas they also had one of those for the Revolutionary War, in the America. There's many of those. But a lot of the reason I made that prediction last year was based off of astrology too. One, it was just a bit of an intuitive hit, but two, that happened. I think it was the exact hit of the first time the US had its Pluto return. I think that was the day, right in the late degrees of Capricorn, when it had its first, because then of course it retrograded back again. But I think that was the first time. So this attack that happened halfway around the world, seemingly isolated, but it's like, have to pay attention to this happening on the day that the US has its Pluto return, because that means we're not going to be isolated from this. There's got to be something more to it. And of course, us being the world superpower and having that return, there's got to be an indication of something bigger at play. And like NJ was saying earlier, that North Korea is now sending troops over to Ukraine to help the Russians. So it is, because I think you referred to it last year as like the US was going to have a more hands-off approach, right? Which has still, they've been aiding them with weapons and money, but, no real boots on the ground yet. Like we still have been isolated from that. So yeah, that's still ringing true. But you now have soldiers from other countries that are pouring into that country, and it's becoming, so it's like the powder keg. So I don't remember if I mentioned that last year about making that prediction, but yeah. So again, it's looking at historical history and seeing patterns and getting that feeling of, I think that this was the first shot heard around the world, and also looking at the astrology and being like, okay, I think this is going to evolve into something. And then looking back, as we are almost 3 years out from that right now, as we're recording this again in December of 2024. So I really want to emphasize that to everyone. It's really important to understand history and understand historical context, because that really applies to astrological predictions. Yeah, sure, it may be fun to just be like, oh yeah, this is going to happen, blah, 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 blah. But why? It didn't just start when any given planet had that hit. Something set the stage for it beforehand. So which prediction do you want to jump into next?
It's also worth noting that the astrology right now, as we speak, is, well, particularly as we were in the early December, looked almost identical with the exception of a couple outer planets, to Pearl Harbor attack. And so I'm really interested in early 2025 with what direction that's going to go. It can be it would more likely be Korea versus China that would probably attack the US, but who knows? It'd probably be a cyber attack, because the US, again, it's going to be really hard to go undetected approaching the US. That's just a geographic advantage it has. But my point is that I do think there might be a surprise attack on the US as well. That's another prediction we really want to get into. And if it's not a surprise attack in terms of like starting the war, I'm really curious about expounding on that assassination possibility for the president-elect Trump. Because I already said there was an attempt, but I even said I'm not sure if his term is going to last 4 years.
Why is that based on astrology?
I don't like being the messenger of these things sometimes. Because to be clear, when he won and I was looking at his chart, I wasn't looking at it through the lens of the astrology is so good for him. I was still looking at this like, oof, that what was it? I think, natal sun has a transiting Jupiter, not on the midheaven, but kind of in that 10th house area. And so I've noticed there is a link to those types of transits for assassinations, because that's the most public sector of your chart. That is when you are on full display. You're probably, from a political leader standpoint, you're one of the most vulnerable. So I noticed both McKinley and I'll have to get back, double check that. And I could pull up their charts in a minute, but I said in the last podcast that Grover Cleveland and Trump had similar transits. That's why I wouldn't surprise if he got elected again. And just because when I considered all the other astrology, whether it was former VP or current VP Harris, like, you know, the astrology was like, it wasn't horrible for her, but the timing just around the election was not ideal. So in turn, like it kind of went to Trump anyways, but I'm like, dude, this man has so many threats on his back right now. And when I'm looking at April 2025, when we're about to have Mars retrograde moving over, and then we're going to have, I think, what is it? He has, I wrote it down. April, okay, Mars stations direct, and it conjoins the moon right on top of Procyon. And this is a fixed star, by the way, in Canis Minor constellation. And so this is actually associated with like prominent rises right before a really bad fall. Like, you rose up to prominence and then crashes and burns. And let's see, I also wrote down, because Trump has his Venus and Saturn conjunction, natal Venus Saturn conjunction at 25 degrees Cancer, just Procyon in his natal chart. So just having Saturn right there, and we're having Mars stationed direct on that. Saturn is everything from consequences to any kind of defiance of authority, particularly with Mars right there. So whoever that might be. But I also think it might be a foreign adversary, because Procyon is also associated with that. Loss in trade and alliances, particularly from a mundane astrology standpoint. Scandals, also dog bites. Random one, fun fact. I don't know how that's going to be relevant anyway, but unless he gets bit by a dog, I don't know. That would be pretty
wouldn't
wild.
that be something if you accurately predict that one?
Right. But I mean, regardless, I mean, I've heard apparently dog attacks can be really brutal. But I don't think that's going to be it necessarily. But just fun fact, I just noticed that that's a very common interpretation of Procyon. So I just thought that would be funny to throw out there. And that's going to be trining, Pegasus. And so it's actually fixed star Markab, which is in the Pegasus constellation. And so I think of Pegasus like getting bitten in the ass, because that's what the myth of Pegasus actually refers to, or one of them anyways. So I do think with that, you get that trine, and particularly in an emotional water trine like that. And we're talking about Saturn, and even just being such a public area of his chart, just emotionally charged actions, particularly from adversaries, or even just deep convictions in that case. So I was like, this doesn't look very good.
Does he have any?
Any what?
Deep convictions?
I mean, that's a damn good question, actually. What he perceives to be. We'll put it like that. Even if they're like based, you're like, is that really? Because I'm with you. He's kind of narcissistic, so that doesn't, very rare that you meet a narcissist that has convictions, unless that conviction is their love for themselves.
Well, could the dog bite be more metaphorical? Or getting bit in the ass?
Oh yeah, like backfiring for dogma. Yeah, that's also worth noting.
All right.
Yeah, you're probably like, okay, enough for the dog bite. Like, is there any like, yeah, that's exactly it. Like, because he is dogmatic. He's a very dogmatic. So
I would give anything to do a past life regression with it.
I know, right?
It'd be fucking fascinating.
I would love to know the past life astrology of that too. That's not something I'm like fully the expert on, but it is interesting to see, like, But did I ever what was I going to say? But yeah, Procyon, because this is the sign of Cancer. When you think of Jupiter's exaltation in Cancer, Jupiter will ingress Cancer this year, and that will be on June 10th, 2025, for that matter. So,
by the way, sorry, I just got to jump in. That wasn't a political thing that I said about him having convictions or not having them. I would say that about the other side as well. So NJ could have brought up any name, and depending on who it was, but do they have any convictions? It just so happens that that's who she brought up. So yeah, that wasn't. They're all a bunch of assholes.
But Trump in particular is morally bankrupt. I mean, I look, I'm like, did he even think about any, the tariffs right now? I'm just like, you really are asking, I'm not even going to say that pew that. I'm just like, do you know what caused Japan to attack Pearl Harbor? An oil embargo. So he's kind of setting a pretext already. So I'm just like, he's already on the shit list of most world leaders. Add the fact that he's got these kind of transits. I'm like, dude.
So there was an expression I heard from someone. His name is Gerald Celente. He's a trend forecaster. And you can look outside of astrology for these things. I started studying trend forecasting back in, I believe it was 2011. And he had this expression back then. And I don't know if he coined it or got it from somewhere else, but his expression was currency wars, trade wars, world wars.
Yep. The economy, from pretty much every war in human history, the economy was the pretext for it. And of course, it wasn't the sole reason, but it was definitely that loss of like that, those shared sensibilities that keep us grounded and, taking, being sensible, right? Once those are removed, people's general actions aren't going to be what you would say rule following, or if not, just outrageous. So, I mean, not saying this is all asked for, but it's kind of like, especially Pluto and Aquarius. This is the fall of the strong man, and he's got a Pluto. Oh yeah, that's also fascinating about Donald Trump is that he has a Leo rising. He's not only going through his Pluto opposition in Aquarius, he is everything he embodies as not necessarily as a Leo rising, because it doesn't really apply to most Leo risings actually, but the fact that he was born during the Pluto and Leo area, if I'm almost positive, yes, he was. And he has Pluto in that first house. I think Pluto and Leo, even though I think Pluto and Leo needs to come with a warning transit or a warning sign in the near future. Like, because like it is the era of nuclear. Yeah. Like because when you think of Pluto and Leo, it's kind of where it reaches its pinnacle, if you will. So it becomes more destructive, more deadly. You also see a spike in birth rates, which inevitably means more death because more people are on the planet at a specific point in time. So I study demographics and demography and populations in college, by the way, y'all. So in case you're like, how does that have to do with anything? It has a lot to do with it. So the fact that he's already got that kind of placement already predisposes him to not aligning with the interests of what people are wanting for this era, the Pluto and Aquarius era. Like that being self-centered, self-centralization, because that's what Trump does. He wants to be kingmaker. He wants to be the ringleader. And that's just not going to work with Pluto and Aquarius. Like we're going to actually see a radical shift if we haven't already.
What do you think that shift is going to look like?
And it's not necessarily that every delegation or congregation is going to have a leading figure. Like they're going to, everyone has, some people are better leaders than others, and they tend to carry on and manage things a lot better than other people can. Let's just put it like that. Outside of that, in the United States, you notice particularly there's like the celebrity worship kind of extends to politicians. Like people will literally wear their faces on t-shirts, like things like that. That's so cringe to me. Like I will never wear a politician on me ever. A name and a campaign shirt's fine, but like their faces, I'm like, see, with a celebrity, I will never wear their face on me unless it's like a really funny, memeable picture. But have you noticed that the kind of political culture that we're part of, there is a tendency to put our leaders on pedestals that aren't even deserved, and they don't even get held accountable. They can do whatever they want.
What are you talking about?
They accrue $1 million in office when they did not start off with that $1 million, and they sure as hell haven't done anything to earn that much.
What is this, 1910?
Like, right? Okay, fine. Billions.
You sound like Dr. Evil right now.
Let's be brutally real.
I want $1 million. $100 billion.
No, that is so right, though. That is so right. I'm like, dude, I'm being so estimative about that.
So I think what NJ's referring to right now, which, okay, we're going to go back really quick to the underpinnings of what happened in December with the killing of the CEO, which I believe links back to Occupy Wall Street, which happened in 2011, economic crash of 2008, and keep going down the line, and you see that there are things that just trigger other events. But this is one of those things where I'll say, I think it could go either way for the United States, because what she's referring to right now is you have anyone in Congress, they go in there not wealthy, and they make, I think, less than $200,000 a year, which is not nothing, but it's also not millions. And somehow they walk away with millions of dollars. I mean, a lot of that is just because it's like insider trading. They get tips ahead of time of things that are going to be happening or something that's going to be voted upon. So they go and buy stock in a company or sell it, or, just any given industry. And they walk away with hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, how? You only made this much, but then you walk away with all that money. And problem is that it's legal. It is legal in the United States to do that. All you have to do is disclose these trades that you make, and it's legal. So there has been a growing movement inside the United States to ban people in Congress from being able to trade stocks, which I personally think would not be the worst thing in the world.
It doesn't. There's more that needs to be done. Just
there's a lot more that needs to be done.
That helps. That helps a lot.
But how I would characterize what I think is coming up is it's really the haves versus the have-nots. It's the rich eating the poor, and the poor being like, I'm done. So that guy, Gerald Celente, who I mentioned before, he has another expression. And that expression is, once people have nothing left to lose, they lose it. So that's, look, you see everything going on the world stage, but the United States is a power cake. It's not, or powder cake. It is not only the political divides. It's the ones that have truly been hidden, which are the economic divides. It's, the economy's great. The stock market's doing great. Well, how many people participate in the stock market? It's all an illusion to a certain extent. Or it's cherry picking the shit out of things, saying, it's going great. So there is an anger that is boiling up right now. And this is not me advocating on behalf of violence in any way, shape, or form. No, there has to be a peaceful way to reach a resolution. That's the idealist in me. The other one is like, you see the writing on the wall and you see that if something is not done, this shit's just inevitable. It's not right. It's not okay. But there's a natural progression that takes place to lead you to a certain event or an outcome. And when the writing is on the wall, you better fucking pay attention. That's all I'm saying is everyone take notice. Make changes now so we don't have to get to that point.
Yeah, I like that expression. Once people have nothing left to lose, they lose it, because that kind of sums up the enemy. I don't know if we talked about that in the last episode, or it was just on my social media page, which is kind of the state that we're like, the conditions that we're dealing with right now. It's basically referred to a state of societal dysfunction and quote normlessness. And so Pluto and Aquarius is really where we're going to start because the fundamental root of enemy is like lack of community, alienation, isolation. And of course, anything about Marxist theory or even just sociology, alienation is pretty much the center of capitalism. And so the fact that everyone is like down with capitalism, it's kind of reflecting like this Pluto and Aquarius themes of like, not necessarily that we have to make it and glorify it about revolution as much as it is anomie it erodes society. It erodes the soul of society, specifically the things that make it worth living. Emile Durkheim specifically coined the term anomic suicide, for example, for those who aren't, we're about to talk about that, which was basically when people do just that because the world and the conditions have no sense of solidarity or functionality, or there's just everything, just you don't know what to expect anymore. And it's disintegration, I think, is ultimately the key thing to hone in on with enemy, that the only sense of autonomy they find at that point is that. And so that was his theory, and that it kind of started trickling down to all parts of society. So yeah, whether it's killing a CEO healthcare, a CEO of United Healthcare, or whatever it is, people just say F it when they are in a state of enemy. It's like, how do I say this? The term was coined during the last industrial revolution. So when you see the parallels, it's very under-discussed. It's a very less well-known topic from a public standpoint, but it's important, because especially when you're trying to understand what Pluto and Aquarius, what exactly is going to be addressed. And it's that right there.
And how do you think it'll be addressed?
So, of course, the reform of governments, anything that pretty much gives all resources, attention, influence, or whatever it might be to one single entity or person. So that'll be one, like, people are fed up with that. You're already seeing the celebrity mass block out that happened in June 2024. celebrities were losing anywhere from like a few million to 10, 40, 50 million followers overnight or just within a week because everyone was fed up. And believe it or not, I do think that is a important factor in what is causing people to be so stagnant in these conditions that we've lived in for so long. And I think that's it. We think, oh, we've had this, it comes from the Pluto and Leo. Like, again, well, actually, United States is 27 degrees Capricorn, natal Pluto. But regardless, we were still erected during a time where democratization and, congregation, those types of attributes to a government are important and valued. Believe it or not, a lot of places don't value that, to be clear. Like, think about half of Asia who still has dictators whose governments were installed after World War II during the Pluto and Leo era. So pretty much with the United States, what happened is that after we won World War II and all the, we really became the world's superpower because we weren't until after World War II. We were kind of the underdog for most of its history. It kind of it made our balls bigger than what we were ready for. And so it became the monster that we know as today, even though it's always been monstrous, like whether you think about the earliest colonial history, but of course at that time, we're talking about outside of that.
Just a complete lack of self-awareness.
What are you talking about, Pluto and Leo?
No, I mean, I was thinking about, the origins of, the origins of the United States, like just a complete lack of self-awareness.
Oh my God, yes. Even though Pluto and Aquarius, like it kind of makes sense from that angle when you say it like that. It's because like none of these dictators try hiding the bad parts of their country. Oh, some of them do. They only try, what's wild is they only try hiding it from their own people, and then they don't really care what the world thinks. It's really weird. But my point is that United States is reversed. It's Pluto and Aquarius. So it's like once we're this era, we're actually going to reinvent our government, if you will. And so everything we saw from the 1940s and 50s with Pluto and Leo is about to get a complete deconstructed and reconstructed. It is not going to survive. Very few things will, but
I mean, historically speaking, that's around the time when the military industrial complex really took over in the United States. So
yep.
How do you see that being overhauled?
See, that one's kind of tricky because I haven't actually thought on that question. But I do talk a lot about the military industrial complex. And of course, if y'all were to ask, well, what's my advice? It's like, well, first thing you have to tackle the media industrial complex. It's like the connection of the military industrial complex with a few things. The religion industrial complex, the tourism industrial complex. The tourism industrial complex is a big one because that was erected when the military industrial complex was. That's actually why when you see the state of Hawaii, for example, it was erected in 1950.
59.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So around that time, it was like that all goes in hand with why people even know about Hawaii is because what happened is that the tourism industrial complex, even though
well, I think they may have known about it from something else.
True. Yeah. But around this time, the United States, one way of capitalizing on Hawaii,
just for anyone who didn't pick up on that, Pearl Harbor. But...
Right. Yeah. Seriously. Thank you for, yeah. I actually forgot to mention that part. But yeah, no, like that kind of gave the United States a better excuse to be more militarized in Hawaii, whether it was testing bombs or whatever it was. And they did that across the whole Pacific. But anyways, tourism was their way of covering that up. It was like creating a utopia, like, oh, it's paradise. Nothing sketchy happening here. Like, it's kind of like that thing. Like, that's actually what the tourism industrial complex does. It is designed with that specific function in mind. It's also a very understated part of the issue because everyone thinks no, because everyone travels. So everyone's like, oh, no, we don't want to believe that we're doing bad. I'm like, well, y'all aren't doing bad. It's just y'all, like, same with like how we talked about with like Israel on October 7th. Do you know, I think at least 1,000, not that, like it was at least like 30 or 20, 30%, something like that. I can't remember how many lost their lives. It was a lot and it was really tragic. But a lot of them were tourists. And because with Israel's occupation of Palestine, it relies on tourism, whether it's ancestral tourism, history tourism, religious tourism, whatever it is, to cover that up. So and then as a result, whether it was, Jewish Americans or from other countries who were going there to realign with their heritage or whatever it was, or what they saw was that effort, got caught in the crossfire. of what I call the military tourism industrial complex. And that is a huge, because I think tourism is it's a multi-billion, like hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue for a single place. Like Hawaii, I need to look the actual figure up, but Hawaii is one of those strongholds of the military tourism industrial complex. And that's why they're like, please don't come here. Please don't come here. It's not because they don't like visitors. No, they love visitors. It's ever since what's happened from post-annexation to Pearl Harbor, it's that the militarization's gotten so bad. And if you go look, that's a trend everywhere. That places that the military is the most established tends to have the highest rates of tourism. And it's kind of reckless and fucked up, if you ask me, because it's like you're actively putting citizens' lives at risk and tourist lives at risk. And I'm an astro-cartographer. I'm trying to help people go places that they're going to enjoy themselves. I want people to travel and enjoy themselves, but there is a very dark, sinister side to those things. And it's not that we're going to get rid of tourism as much as we are going to actually, the fact that we do have power as tourists, we do. Like that will be a huge part in swaying that.
Supposed to be like ethical tourism complex,
yes.
Industrial complex.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
We treat our people well here. Everyone come here. Then, of course, it's like when you start going to the beach on North Korea. Oh, I don't know, bad joke.
Yeah, and even wait.
It's like, they have those. Everyone come to Mississippi. Not there's anything wrong with Mississippi, but it's like a commercial that you see. While you're watching TV.
I'm with you. Like they show you that one corner of Mississippi that's actually like the hidden gem, and then like you go to the whole different part, and you're like, is this real? Like it's like how horrible it is. Like no, I'm not denying. Like, I'm not offended. I'm like it's like
you went to school in Mississippi, didn't you?
I was born and raised here, but it's like weird because the northwest corner of Mississippi is like it's the Delta, in which it's weird because when you get down to the rural Delta, it's abysmal. Like it's bad. Like education, everything between. But as you get a little more north towards like Cleveland, Mississippi, up towards DeSoto and I'm outside of Memphis for what it's worth. So more city. We call it Memphissippi here, Memphissippi, because Memphis is more culturally Mississippi and not just that. It's it's a river city. So there's a lot of similarities. So it doesn't really like Tennessee doesn't really like claim Memphis.
Gambling trips.
Say what?
Do you have riverboat gambling trips?
Oh, riverboats are like that's a real thing. That's awesome.
It was not thinking Step Brothers.
Oh, there's riverboats on there?
Well, there was a joke that was in Step Brothers. I mean, if I brought it up before.
God, I haven't seen that movie in so long, so I'm sorry if I don't pick up on the joke. It's because it's like, oh man, I need a rejotter. I haven't seen that movie in years. So
John
very
C. Reilly,
few things I actually remember.
He was talking about riverboat gambling trips, men making their own beef jerky and things like that.
Actually, I don't think it's beef jerky here. It's deer jerky, but yeah, that's actually true.
That's what you say. We're men, we go
that's actually a thing here.
We make our own beef jerky. And he said one other thing that I won't bring up right now.
Yeah.
And then his dad says, we've literally never done any of those things. So, okay, anyways, on that.
No,
I brought up Mississippi because I knew you were from around that area and that you did go to college there, didn't you?
Delta State.
This is why I picked Mississippi when I said that, because also they'd had their issues with the water there recently. So, like you said,
that's Jackson.
Well, still Mississippi.
Right. Well, I will say it's northwest. Like when you get towards Memphis and towards down the Delta, our water is like, we're part of a completely different aquifer. We're part of one of the best aquifers.
Okay, NJ, that's great.
I'm just saying, don't dog on my water. Like Memphis gets really defensive about our water.
Well, you learn something every day.
DeSoto. I'm DeSoto, so it's like, yeah, we get real.
I won't poo-poo on your water.
I won't poo-poo on your poo-poo water.
Yeah, well, saying you guys have very good tap water there.
Yes, we do.
Yes, it's good. The point with that was just that, just like NJ said, it's like they show the one good thing in the commercial with the people smiling, or it's like another thing.
They advertise the water,
like pharmaceutical ads. Like where you have someone with, colitis or Crohn's, and the ad is people running around, having a picnic in a field, and, kids running around with a fucking kite.
Yes. While they're kind of narrating and the side effects may include including death. And you're like, what? And then you have people like walking around holding hands that normally you don't think would be together, but for some reason in this, in this pharmaceutical ad, they are. like I'm with you. It's like it's not that we're like against that type of mashup as much as like you can tell that they're trying so hard to cover up the truth. Like they're like,
Jesus,
oh
it
God,
wasn't a
look how...
racial thing that I was saying there.
Oh, I was like, well, I was thinking like
It
there's
was
just a
more
lot
age
like
gap.
that's no, seriously, whether it's that or no gender too. No, all of it. It doesn't.
Yeah,
You got to think. I have a sociology brain. I'm not looking at it just from race. I'm looking at it from every angle of it. Yeah, every
But
strata you
seriously,
can think of.
they're always running around with a kite. Everyone just keep it on that if you see
even the
pharmaceutical
70-year-olds, man.
Yeah.
they're not doing that in real life.
And then you got a kid swinging on the arms like it's a, man and a man, woman and woman, man and a woman. It's supposed to be a kid, like swinging the kid like, wee. Yeah. So the whole point
as
with
if he didn't just sprain his shoulder as he did that. Like once the commercial,
yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I guess that's my long-winded way of saying if things are going to pan out, like NJ is saying, and look, I've learned to not doubt her. Not that I ever did, but she's gotten a lot of shit right. Keep an eye on those things. When tourism becomes quote unquote more ethical, don't just be fooled by an ad that looks like it's a pharmaceutical ad, but for Jackson, Mississippi or San Bernardino, California. San Bernardino is a good place. I'm not saying anything wrong about it, but I just thought,
Mississippi's where you raise families. It's not a tourist destination.
Okay, how about this? Los Angeles, California, since that's where I live.
Right. So like California's got more that the outsiders want. Like we're the hidden gem. We're like people don't want to visit here when they come here. Like this is actually a good place to establish. But like outside of that,
so my super duper long-winded way of saying, everyone still use your discernment because there's still going to be hucksters out there and con artists. And I could be wrong, but I don't think that bad intentions are just going to erode as other things get better. I think that I am very reluctant to say we're going to one day wake up in a utopia. Hopefully we can get to that point. It's probably not within our lifetimes. Wait, what?
I mean, I don't know if I would call it a utopia, dystopia, utopian, dystopian, dystopian,
they're two completely different
I don't
things.
know. That's kind of what I'm trying to say is that there's a contradiction of what we're seeing now where it's like both, but not. It's like, it's bizarre.
There is and this is one of those things, everyone, please heed this to a certain extent. There is an argument that's being made to say that we are living in the best time ever right now because everyone has a TV in their home or a cell phone. That is the correlation that's being made. Forget life expectancy dropping, people living in shit conditions, but oh no, everyone has a cell phone. So that is the new marker or the new, pinnacle to reach of society being a utopia is everyone having a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep, when you listen to these things, like that's fucking absurd. Sorry.
I know. But just like when we were saying the medicine commercials, when I'm watching this, I feel like I'm watching I can't tell if it's utopian, dystopian, or both, because on one hand, they're presenting something to you that's so cringe that you're just like, I'm kind of freaked out by what, because I think for us, it signals like, who made this. It was the people behind these systems that made these propaganda and these commercials. So I think for us, it's like that intuitive sensing of knowing what their intentions are. And we're like, fuck you for it. I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting right now.
They use really
that's
good
just like
lighting.
Growing.
So one other one I want to say about the cell phone
right?
thing. So the person who I heard say the cell phone and TV thing, they said something else about, I can't remember what the context it was brought up in, but they talked about how it's these places living in the 1500s. And he said, all you got to do is get on a plane and travel to these places. And then you'll see they're living in the 1500s. It's like, hey, dumbass, you want to know how I know that that's not true? Because if they got a fucking runway there, they're not living in the 1500s.
That is actually funny. You brought Mississippi because that's what everyone says when they come here. Is everything is frozen in time.
Really? Do you guys have airplanes?
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, the university I went to is like the only aviation school in the region.
Yeah. So maybe there are cultural aspects that are frozen in time.
No, I think that's what they're trying to say is that even though we've got technology, we're integrated in the modern or even postmodern world from an attitude or even a emotional or even a cultural standpoint, you're like, oh. Whereas I think when we're looking at everything from like a national standpoint, it's not that we're stuck back in time. I think I would even go as far. A lot of this country is trying to get too ahead of their time. They're trying to the point where it's not even like, oh, you're Yeah, when we say that people are ahead of their time, it usually means a good thing. But for us, it's like we're trying to catch up we lack the foresight to do that. Let's just put it like that. So those two things do not mix. If like the US just doesn't, they're very impulsive. There's a reason that we're in so many pointless wars. It's because they don't have foresight. They have calculation of what they're going to gain, but they don't, like you said, they don't have an awareness of self to think, oh, we're going to royally screw this one up. We just sit this one out.
All right, everyone, I can boil it down for you very simply right now. Money and politics.
Oh, yeah.
That is the issue. Everything that we are discussing right now, you can trace its roots to money and politics. Now, since this is a spiritual podcast, we won't fully go into that. And everyone's saying at this point, what the fuck? You've been talking about politics for the last, hour plus right now. It's like, well, maybe, but there are also many spiritual components to it because you're living this life right now and you are here on Earth at this time. And yes, the things that we are talking about affect everyone in the world. And it is my belief that we have multiple lives. So there is something unique about this life. So this is all part of a spiritual journey. And as you heard in a recent episode, it is my belief that you shouldn't keep your head in a hole and that you should have an awareness of what's going on in the world around you, understanding history, where you've come from, where you're going. Well, back that up. In order to understand where you're going, you need to understand where you've come from and also get your head out of the fucking hole. So with all that, NJ, any other predictions you want to throw out there for 2025?
Do we want to go into the Mars retrograde details? Because those are pretty important.
Go for it.
So we've got Mars retrograde, stations retrograded at 6 degrees Leo on December 7th, as we're past that now. And so by January 6th, it's going to backtrack into the sign of Cancer. So as we know, Cancer is the sign of home, safety, security, as well as... Don't fuck mommy. Exactly. So of course, when you think of anything relating to the home front, even genealogy, ancestry gets highlighted. But even with Leo, the signs associated with or the themes associated with Leo can range anywhere from sovereignty, the creative industries, whether it's Hollywood or theater or film, all those sorts, as well as sovereignty. Yeah, like I said, sovereignty movements. Oh yeah, monarch. Yeah, I guess for my UK folks, really keep an eye on what's going to happen with the royal family, because it looks like I don't know how much longer they're going to stand. I'm not saying that they're going to completely disintegrate, because if they survived, God, how knows how many Pluto and Aquarius transits, they probably, but it's going to be completely just because that's what Leo represents. And I can even go over some events that happened the last time it stationed these degrees of Leo.
Yeah, go for it.
So with the years we're looking at is 1978, 1992, and 2009. And so for 1978, that was the Jonestown Massacre, which is interesting because Leo is associated with cults of personality. I've actually even heard that it's associated with prophets, even false prophets, depending on what the astrology is. But because apparently from a biblical standpoint, Leo the lion is considered the biblical prophet. So I just thought that's what my cousin told me. Y'all can fact check me on that.
Wait,
I
what?
just thought that was interesting. Like my cousin told me that in the Bible that apparently Leo the lion is associated with prophecy. And
because Daniel the lion, not the lion hunter, but Daniel the prophet was put into the lion's den.
Oh, okay. See, the thing is, I'm familiar with the Bible, but like those little specific details, I'm not as well versed in. So thank you for sharing that.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, heck yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the point, is that those things like the Jonestown Massacre, that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, for example, wait, Leo the lion was a prophet? What?
Oh, no.
But yeah, I meant to say like those
associations. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, because that could definitely be misleading. Let's see. Yeah, anything with babies and children is also under Leo's domain. The first test tube baby. So I bet like IVF or things of that sort might see some stuff happen there. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act was passed in 1978, which is where you could not discriminate against anyone for being pregnant. Let's see. Camp David Accords happened then, which I'm having a brain fart on what the Camp David Accords are. I wrote it down now.
Jimmy Carter.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I was like, I have so much information. I was like, oh, what was that again? Okay. Oh yeah. The Equal Rights Amendment, it failed. Oh yeah. Mars retrograde in Cancer, a lot of woman first, but of course that's going to come with a lot of conflict of revisiting previous issues relating to particularly reproductive rights, women's rights. Women, last time, 1978, women were integrated in the military for the first time. The largest women's march in U.S. history before 2017 happened. So women, it's supposed to be a year for women too. So that's a perk. Then in 1992, that was the end of the Cold War, the official end of the Cold War. You and I were talking about how there might be a conflict that ends all the wars particularly from the Cold War period. The end of apartheid in South Africa ended this year. NAFTA passes this year, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement. Let's see. Oh yeah, the debut of RuPaul was in I think early 1993, right after that retrograde, which was I think a big cultural moment for.
Sure NAFTA wasn't 92. Let me double check on that.
No, it is. That's what I'm saying. Here it says 92, and then 93 it was saying shortly after that retrograde, there was the debut of RuPaul. So from a cultural and art standpoint, talking about Leo. Leo also is linked to sexuality. A lot of people think that's strictly Scorpio, and that's actually not fully true. Mercury and even Gemini has links to that as well. But regardless. Okay, in 1992 was also another massive women's march in DC. So I guess we can expect a very, very big women's turnout, but I think it's going to happen in a widespread.
Really quick, for NAFTA, capitals or countries submitted the agreement for ratification in 1992, and then it was ratified in 93 and put into effect in 1994.
And it's also worth noting, once Mars stations direct, Mars is journey. It's been almost, I think, 2.5 to 3 months.
So yeah,
and it's actual
NJ
retrograde period.
So
there.
It gives a. Sorry, that was just.
Oh,
NJ was right.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing is, these types of events usually don't happen on that. You might see the catalyst, but it usually takes a couple of years to pan out. So I'm with you. It's ish, even though it was ratified, but established.
That may line up a little bit if you think about it. Sorry to jump in because I know you're on a roll there, but let's harp on this really quick. I don't know if harp is the right word. Since it was submitted for ratification back in December of 92, it can almost be it's still going to be in retrograde, right? When the new administration comes in on January 20th. So it could have its foundations there equivalent to 1992, but it may be a little while till you see it start to rear its teeth. Is that kind of the parallel there?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to read here because I have a lot of notes. How else would I go on with NAFTA?
By the way,
it also goes back to border issues as well.
Really quick with NAFTA,
from a modern standpoint,
a lot of the issues we were talking about before, Occupy Wall Street, all those, a lot of that had its roots in NAFTA. So for all those of you who are unfamiliar with NAFTA, it's the North American Free Trade Association, I believe, right? Is that what it stands for?
Well, agreement, but yeah, you nailed it.
Agreement. Thank you for that. And it made North America, for all intents and purposes, one big economic zone. Loosely, where it allowed a lot of manufacturing to leave the United States and go to neighboring countries for cheaper labor. And that in turn really ruined a lot of cities and states, especially in the Midwest. Or something you heard a lot in the most recent election was they were talking about the Rust Belt and the Rust Belt states. The Rust Belt is where all the manufacturing jobs were.
Yep.
So the economy started to shrivel a lot for the middle class around that time because all of those jobs were shipped offshore into
the Great Motors, I think, was one of
a lot of the car companies and just a lot of that manufacturing industry where you had good paying middle class jobs that were then gone. And there was a lot of anger that was created from that. And then fast forward to, and Occupy happened in 2011. Fast forward to 2015. You have someone coming along and saying, I'm pointing the finger at who's responsible for your jobs being taken away. I was saying it's the Mexicans, which not true, not true at all. But a finger was pointed and saying they are responsible. Again, it's not everything was about racism, but they are responsible. They're the ones that took your jobs. If a lot of people understood the roots of it and understood that, no, it wasn't them who took your jobs. It was the
Mm-mm.
people who sent your jobs away that were responsible for your jobs going bye-bye. So it has its roots elsewhere. This is something that happened 20 plus years before the rise of Trump. But then you know what was happening at the time was the media especially saying, oh, it's all about racism. They're just a bunch of fucking racists. No, they're not. No, they're not. Are some of them racist? Yes. Are they all? No, they're not all racist. So I hate to break it to you, but there are some racist Democrats too.
Oh,
so
that's
no,
a whole other conversation. I'm with it like, oh, I can verify that.
If you really look at it, the rise of Trump had nothing to do with racism, maybe a little bit, but it was really about economic hardship that had its roots decades before. So, and you need to understand where the roots begin to understand where you're at now and where you're going. Because all it takes is sitting in a history class for all of a half an hour to understand, oh, this is all economic. This is a bunch of bullshit that they're feeding me right now. So that's why it's so important. And I don't want to be like wagging my finger at everyone, but these things that NJ is talking about right now, they fucking matter. They really matter. Because if you understand the events that she's referring to right now, by the way, the Camp David Accords that she brought up, I believe that had to do with Israel, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what it?
Yeah, I'm about to I need a quick rejot of what that is. Yeah, it was Egypt and Israeli prime minister. Okay, so yes, it had to do with peace between Egypt and Israel, as well as a framework for which dealt with the Palestinian territories. And this was written up with the partition. Oh yeah, that's right. But it was written without participation of Palestinians at the and was further condemned by the UN. I thought it was saying that participation of Palestinians at the UN.
Anyone, you see any parallels? You see any parallels to this? It's not just a Mercury retrograde. It's the Mercury retrograde in Leo and Cancer, right? That you're specifically referring to?
Oh, and I need to add something about Mars retrograde in Leo, which is reversals and strongman leadership. And so you heard the news recently of Syrian dictator who just got overthrown by Syrian rebels. So that also ties, and we will maybe see a little more of that. And when we looked at 1978 and it's 1978 and 2009. The Iranian Revolution started in 1979, shortly after Mars retrograde in the similar degrees. And then in 2009, there were similarly mass protests. And in 1978 to 1979, that was actually when they overthrew, I think it was the Pahlavi dynasty. Let me double check. Pahlavi, I think it's how you said Pahlavi dynasty in 1779. Okay, yes, because it was the Iranian Revolution started in January 1978, technically, and then ended in February 1979. So, but yes, this year was the year of the Iranian Revolution, or what we're seeing in Syria right now, and even because it's all a similar region, same with Palestine. So, yes, we are going to see far more developments of that. Do you want to add anything or what?
I mean, the parallels are there if you see them. Just that's it. Straight up, if you understand these events and what was going on at the time, you'll have a much broader understanding of what is happening in the here and now. There may be something to this whole astrology thing. That's all I'll say.
I know. It's like, because like there's a lot going on in the Middle East, and then also like just that Syrian news really caught my eye, because the Leo is the sign of the strong man, and that's why Pluto and Leo, you just saw like every country, particularly across Europe and Eastern Europe, rise and fall to dictators. So, which also brings me back to why people are like, well, what makes you say the Asiatic Pacific? And I'm like, well, because I use a technique called zenith stars. And so there's a belief that, particularly, I'm getting this more from Hawaiian astronomy and astrology, that every place on Earth is ruled by a star, a declinating star. It corresponds with the exact latitude. So in turn, like, this star can tell you everything about what's going to happen to a place. And so I learned that the zenith for the South China Sea, spanning to like Sea of Japan, and that part of the Asiatic Pacific falls under those early to mid degrees of Leo. And so even to an extent, like as you get further out, it's going towards Virgo. So I thought that was interesting. And as I linked up historical events, I noticed that Mars retrograde in Leo often was very major, particularly the middle, like actually the Middle East too. But I think if I remember correctly, I don't remember if there was, look, I have it printed out. I will look up the date and make sure. I can't remember if it was Mars in Gemini or Mars in Cancer that the Korean War started. Not during, but it was that same year, which is important because Mars spends more than half the year in that sign when it stations retrograde. It spends 3 months going through that part of the sky, and after that, it takes a hot minute to get out of it. 1948 was the last time Mars stationed retrograde in Cancer, so that was right after World War II. January 8th, 19, or sorry, no. Let's see. No, actually, excuse me. 1958 was. Let me double check. No, that's Venus retrograde. Excuse me. Wrong one. Excuse me. You can edit that one out, right?
I can, but I won't.
Okay. That's fine. Although, hold up. Okay, that's right. 1960, Mars stationed retrograde in Cancer. And then in 1958, it was. Okay, I'm looking at 1950. Excuse me. 1948. Okay, yes. 1948, Mars stationed retrograde from 7 degrees Virgo to 18 degrees Leo, January 8th to March 29th, 1948. And then in 1950, it was 11 degrees Libra to 22 degrees Virgo. So that was right. If sometimes it's Leo when these conflicts happen, and sometimes it's like, I had something else written down. I think it's Taiwan as well that has similar, like, I think that might be the one that's more prominent for Mars and Leo. Y'all, I'm sorry. There's a lot of information here. And it's not just that Mars retrograde in Leo, it's the fact that we've got Pluto and Aquarius in opposition, and this is like rare. It's a 2-part opposition. So very, 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 very rare. And again, the last time something like this happened in these signs at the exact degrees was reversed during Pearl Harbor when Mars retrograde in Aquarius, or not Mars retrograde, excuse me. Actually, I'll double check that. It was Venus, excuse me. It was Venus, and we have Venus in opposition to, it's conjunct Pluto. Mars is opposition Pluto right now, but regardless, Venus and Mars in opposition to Pluto tends to be some of the most contentious events in conflicts. And so Pearl Harbor, it was Pluto in Leo at 5 degrees, and it was opposition to Venus and Aquarius at 1 degree. So, because Venus deals a lot with your allies versus adversaries. So a lot of times when there's an opposition like that, and in this go around, it was Venus and Aquarius opposition Mars retrograde in Leo. It kind of has a similar effect, except it's not necessarily going to be another world war. I think it's going to have more of revolutionary implications. And again, let me see what else I was referring to. Oh, that's right, because we have a Mars. That's what it was. It's not necessarily Mars retrograde in Leo itself. It's just having a Mars retrograde so close to, like, so we have Mars conjunct South Node at 25 degrees Virgo on that was last time it happened was September 1st, 2006. And this time it's July 25th, 2025. So I'm really, and I've noticed there's a connection with like between June and August where some of the most major events in Korea happen. And again, it can be Taiwan too, because you have to think they have they're not super close, but there's a geographical proximity there. So, and Thailand also has implications here. So I'm actually reading here that there was a coup during this last transit. There was a coup in Thailand in September 2000, or I don't know if it's September, but it was in 2006 at some point, as well as a lot of information leaks, a lot of
they had a 2-seater
scandals
car?
And leaks. What's that?
They had a 2-seater car?
Who?
He said there was a coup in Thailand.
Oh, a coup d'etat. Like an attempt of overthrowing the government.
I know.
Oh, you're joking.
Yeah.
You're joking. Okay. But I was like, okay, so this is interesting. So last time there's this, there's also a lot of, the U.S. embassy gets attacked during this year in Syria. So I also think that's interesting. Again, it's okay. That's right. Oh yeah. Mars retrograde in Leo also happened a few months before the first shot of the American Revolution. And the eclipses were also in Virgo and Pisces, like the nodes were shifting. So I just kind of thought that was interesting as well.
So can I sum it up?
1775.
We got some shit coming up in 2025.
Right. You have to think with the Mars retrograde Leo back at that time, they were resisting the imperial government from Britain. So it's the imperial sign. Well, I guess Aries could be more or less too, depending on how you look at it.
All right. NJ, are you ready to play the Saturn game?
Yeah.
All right.
What's the Saturn game?
So in this little baggie, I have 4 periods of time.
I love games. Yes.
So I'm going to go put my hand in. As you can see, I like to maintain the integrity of the game. So I'm looking away and I'm mixing it up. I pull my hand out once, put it back in again, spin it up, pull my hand out twice. And now on the third time, I'm going to pull out a piece of paper. I don't know what's on this paper, but my question for
What do you mean you don't know what's on the paper? You wrote it.
Well, I don't know which one I picked.
Okay. I was like.
So, NJ, how have you grown in the last week?
Wow, the last week. Man, I think it's too big of time scales. I guess in the last week I've grown because I have realized that I guess boundaries. I guess one way to look at it. Getting better with boundaries. I don't know. Well, week is a pretty short span compared to other things, I guess.
I have day in here. Do you want me to pick that one for you instead?
How have I grown in the last day? I guess aside from the tacos. Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. I like that. That was a very Taurus.
I'm a little bloated if that's what you're talking about.
Let's stick with how have you grown in the last week?
Kidding. I've been working on my office.
That's big.
So yeah, it is big. I mean, it's not done yet. I would have a neon strip behind me if I had more time before this, but it'll be here next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's going to be things up on the walls. It's going to look like, you're living in a beautiful mind. Do you ever see that movie?
Yes. I have not.
You should check it out.
I will. I love movies.
That's how the name suggests. I mean, it is, but you'll get it. you'll
just
understand.
get it, man.
I mean, I don't think you're to that extent, but you'll get it. You'll relate to that movie.
Get it. I just found more notes about what I took with like Trump and the possible assassination. You want me to share it real quick? I know it's kind of random. We can do it very quick. Okay, that's why another reason I came to this estimation was because he has similar transits of President William McKinley, who right after a Mars retrograde, I think it was in Virgo, if I'm not mistaken, and it's once it's stationed direct, it hit his ascendant and it hit a, let's see. Oh yeah, and on that same day, in addition to, there was a cardinal grand cross with his, or no, excuse me, mutable grand cross. Please correct me on that. A mutable grand cross. So let's see. The Sun, Venus, Cazimi in Virgo, along with the nodes in Virgo, in addition to a North node at 25, or sorry, the transiting North node, excuse me. So even though it wasn't a grand cross in transit, you had grand crosses is when you've got all 4 corners or elements in the chart facing off in a square, and it's, for example, this configuration was present on October 7th, and we saw how bad that was. So, and you'll actually, a lot of, I think both world wars, or at least one of them, started on a grand cross configuration.
By the way, that's energy that doesn't know what the fuck to do with itself.
Oh yeah, no, for real. It's split in 4 different directions, so it just goes, yeah. Sorry if that was a
no, it's okay. It gets the point across.
I have a natal grand cross for what it's worth. Let me tell you, it builds
you should
character.
go watch A Beautiful Mind.
You could benefit. Yeah, like, so I just thought that was worth throwing out because I didn't fully answer that earlier. I'm like, oh, that's right. Because I have a lot of things written down that I can't recall right off the bat, but that's another reason that prompted me to make that prediction. So I was like,
So with all of that said, where can everyone reach you?
On my Instagram?
What's
or
your
even
Instagram?
my email. Probably my email. My Instagram inbox is a little cluttered, so it's...
Well, where can everyone check out your work?
So mainly on my Instagram page. I'm currently about to get a podcast up myself and / YouTube channel. And I am getting my website, all my current writing that's published on my Instagram page. So that will be up soon. So if you follow my Instagram page, you'll see those announcements.
So you're starting a podcast?
I have been sitting on that idea because it's
Why am I just hearing about this now?
Because it's not something I decided till like 2 days ago.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Because for a while I was like, I don't know, like podcasting is just too much. Like I'm horrible at audio and editing and
can I give you do you have a title yet?
I was thinking Star Spangled Astrology. But what's your idea?
I like that better than mine. But just
what was yours? I want to know.
Astrological shit show.
I love how it's just like such 180s on that one. Well, I guess Star Spangled, if you're looking at it from an American standpoint, it is a shit show. Same difference, you know?
I mean, I like yours.
That should be the subline, aka an astrological shit show.
Yeah. I mean, that also gives you leeway to kind of like be like, I don't know what, have the papers shuffling and everything as you're doing it. Because you tell everyone, hey, this is what you're tuning in for, an astrological shit show.
See, I think if I were running it and I had because the thing is when I'm
sorry, that's actually fucking brilliant.
What?
Astrological shit show. That is fucking brilliant. I mean, not to like toot my own horn, but oh my God, is that not a fucking brilliant name for a podcast?
Of course.
You don't think so? It's okay. I'll give it to someone else.
I think it's a great subtitle or a headline. It goes underneath the title, your astrological shit show of the week. Like it's your political astrological shit show. I don't know.
That's pretty cool.
It's not their shit show, if you know what I mean. It's the nation shit show. I'm just
is
kidding.
That what you're doing? It's about.
Yeah, it's gonna be predominantly world, not just world predictions, but it'll be more like you were saying, like anything from a sociological, political, cultural. It's gonna have. I really like talking about that stuff. I need a muse for it. I just be speaking out into like the wild of the threads, and then everyone's just like. So I really just need to do something interesting.
Can I be a guest?
Oh, all the time. I wish you could just be my regular partner, but that would mean like abandoning your podcast and whatnot. And I don't know how I feel about that because you know it's great. So it's like, well,
why do I have to abandon my podcast?
That's fair. I mean, because a lot of people can't handle both. A lot of people are like, no, one.
Oh, you mean I have to do all the work? I can't just show up?
No. Oh yeah, if you just show up and maybe help with the editing a little bit.
That's the work.
Well, I mean, I can help with that part. I can do the video part. So I'm like, the thing is, like, I'm pretty good with video editing and things of that sort. So I was like, I'll just do YouTube. And I was like, well, then I have to have audio editing too.
Things just could be something we could talk about. We got a good dynamic. We have fun.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I need a co-host. I think that's one thing that set me back. Even though I am so independent, co-hosts keep me accountable. I'm not good at, I'm limited on how much I can keep myself self-accountable without falling into a shit show.
Wait, what? What was that word you just used? Or the expression? Did you just say shit show?
Right. Are you using my idea?
It's okay. You can use it.
Yeah, I'm using your idea. Idea.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for coming on. Everyone go reach NJ at her Instagram, which is
NJK Astrology. Pretty simple.
NJK Astrology. I'll include in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I always like to finish all these by saying, yay.
Yay.
There you go. Yay. Okay, you can finish with yay. One more.
Yeah.
Wait. That was not yay. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
No, we're going to do it. This is yeah.
I'm not going to win that one.
No,
okay.
No, I don't go yay. I go yeah.
Fellow time travelers, your journey through time awaits you. Just want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. And if you're interested in discovering who, when, and where you have been throughout time, and you'd like to book a sesh with me, just go ahead and send me a message on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist, or you can reach me through my website, yourpastliferegressionist.com.